Hi, my name is Heather, and today I'm going to show you how to create word art for the Cricut in Affinity Designer using your Wacom tablet. Welcome to another episode of Wacom plus Cricut, my series where I show you how to create digital assets for the Cricut using your Wacom tablet. And of course, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Wacom for sending me this tablet and for sponsoring this series. The tablet that I'm using in this video is the Wacom One Display Tablet, and I'll have a link to that in the description. First, let me show you what I mean by creating word art. If you search Google for certain subjects like holidays, then sometimes you'll find a lot of different quotes and sayings that are really cute to put on like t-shirts or water bottles or hats or any of that kind of stuff. That's what we're going to be creating today. And since the 4th of July is coming up, I thought it would be really fun to do 4th of July stuff. To do this, we're going to be using both fonts and handwritten text. So we will cover both of those methods in this video. First, let's think of some quotes and sayings to use. Of course, we can do the 4th of July, but then we can also do, I think Meowica is cute because I like anything that has to do with cats. Now that we have some ideas, let's go ahead and get started. I'm in Affinity Designer 2. Here is my new document I'm creating. We can just keep it at the defaults, making it letter size and 300 dpi. That should be fine because this is going to be vector, so you can scale it to any size anyways. And let's just do create. I'm just gonna hide that margin there. We don't really need that. Let's start with our first idea. So 4th of July, let's start by adding some text in. So I'm going to click on the little text tool here, and then I'm just going to click and drag however big that I want the text to be. And then I'm going to type out my first word. So it's just going to be 4th. And after I type it, I can click on the move tool and then put that wherever I want it. And then I'll click on the text tool again, click and drag. And then we can do the word of. And I made it a little smaller just because usually for less significant words, I usually put them a little bit smaller. So I like to have some variation in the sizes of the words. You'll see what I mean as we kind of go through the design. But I'm going to grab my select tool again, and then I'll just move that somewhere. And actually, now that I think of it, we probably want the 4 and the TH to be separate. Let's grab the text tool again and let's delete the TH. I'll just click outside of it, and then I'm going to click and drag and do the TH. Now we can grab our text tool again, click and drag, and then I'll do July. And with the select tool, I'll just move that. Now let's have some fun with the fonts. Let's have the word July selected because that's the longest word in this whole group of words. So we'll get a better feel for what the font looks like. So I have the word July selected, and I'm just going to go up to my toolbar, and I'm just going to mouse over these different fonts and kind of find one that I like. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if you're designing this for the Cricut, you don't want to have any font that is too thin. Like this font right here, yeah, it's cute, but it's very thin. That wouldn't be great for the Cricut because if they're doing iron-on, if you have really thin or really tiny pieces, they are more likely to peel off. So I do like to have kind of thicker ones. Like this is a nice one. And there are a couple little thin spots in there, but since they're connected to the thicker ones, that's not too bad. So I do really like that one. Let's see what else we have here. Ooh, this one's really pretty. Let's do that one. Another thing I really like to do, in addition to kind of varying the sizes, is also varying script versus regular fonts. So since I have the word July in script, and that's kind of like one of the most important words, so I like to have the important words like big and script and, just have some good impact. For the word of, that can be quite a bit smaller, and we can keep it as a regular font instead of a script one. Let's go up here, and I never like to stick with the standards like Arial or Times or anything like that, just because people have seen those fonts so much. You want to give them something different to look at. And you will need to kind of go through and try to pick a font that kind of looks like it goes with the other font that you picked. So I'm going to use this as an example. So this one that I just selected for of, it doesn't really go with July that I have right here, because the thickness of the letters is really thick, and it's way thicker than a lot of the part of July. So it kind of gives it more emphasis, but yet the word of is kind of less important and we're making it smaller. So it's kind of contradictory, and the fonts just don't look right together because the thickness is so different. So I'd probably want a thinner font than that. And the more you do this, the more you'll kind of get an idea of what does go together. For this example, this is another script font, and you don't want to mix two script fonts together, because if you do that, it just looks messy. There's a way to put multiple fonts together in one design, but not have it look messy. And one of the mistakes that people make is by having like multiple fonts of the same style. If you're going to have script fonts, have one script font. If you're going to have a non-script font, probably just one, maybe two. Like if you want to have one that's like really thick and then maybe one that's really thin, you either want things to be very different or just use the same font, because when they're just a little bit different, it just looks like a mistake. I hope that makes sense. Let's go through and find a non-script font that kind of looks like it goes with that word July. This one could maybe work. It's a really cute font, but I'd probably want it with more of a scripty font that's maybe a little more casual looking. The font that we used for the word July just doesn't feel as casual to me as this sans serif font. I think I'll use Melto San 200. This is one of my favorite fonts. For fourth, we can try using one of these two fonts, because then we're only using two different fonts in our design, and that's pretty good. You don't want to go crazy and use a lot of different fonts. If you can get away with two, that's good. If you want to add a third one, or maybe just like a bold version of one of them you already have in there, that's cool too. The TH, I always think that looks nice as a script. So let's use the same font as this one, which is Ballistic. So I'll go to the TH and I'm going to choose Ballistic. That's really pretty. And let's see how the 4 looks in that. Or we can do the 4 in Melto Sans. Another thing is with numbers, those can be kind of tricky, because sometimes you might love the font, but the way they did the numbers just doesn't work. So I actually don't mind going through and finding a different font to use for the number if you feel like you need to. I think I'll stick with that Ballistic, but to give this a little more variation and just to make it look a little more interesting, I'm going to make the 4 a lot bigger, and then the TH, I'll make it smaller. That kind of gives your eye somewhere to like jump to, so it's not just everything being the same. Now I'm going to select the TH and the 4, and now I just like to kind of rearrange them to fit them really nice. This is kind of fun because you'll find that when you're working with certain words and certain letters, you can look at the shape of the word and where it goes down and where it goes up and kind of fit things where you want to fit them. And I think that's really fun. So if we have like the word July, say we take the 4 and it could maybe fit like here. Or you can also overlap some things sometimes too, so that can also be fun. You could overlap it like that, especially if you're doing different colors. If you keep trying to grab a word and it keeps grabbing the wrong one, like I keep trying to grab the word of and it grabs July. So with July selected, I'm going to move that to the back. I'm going to go over here and click move to back. See, now I can grab the word of. I can maybe put it like here and take up that empty space right here. Now, if we want, we can add a little bit of embellishments to this also. I'm going to grab my vector brush tool and I'm going to set controller to pressure. And then I'm going to go over to my brushes panel and I'm just going to pick a very basic brush. I'm under pens and I can just pick this top one here. This is the solid pen with pressure. And now we can draw something. For example, we can draw a little firework. Also, remember that you can set up your buttons And I'll link to the video where I show you how to do that so that you have an express menu. So I can click my button, and here's my express menu, and I can actually move it over here. And then you can press the little pin and that will keep it there so that you can always use it. So now I'm just drawing my fireworks here. If you do like little dots in the fireworks, just try to make sure they're not too small because, again, like I said before, you don't want to have any really itty bitty pieces because they'll just peel right off of the iron-on. Here is my firework. I'm going to grab the select tool and select the whole thing. I'll go ahead and group it so that I can do stuff with it more easily. So I'm going to go to Layer, Group. So now these fireworks are their own group and I can just move them around, and I like to use the different elements that we make to kind of fill in the little empty spaces. So we have a big empty space here in this upper right corner, but then we could probably put a couple fireworks in some of these little empty spots too. So let's take this guy and go to Edit, Duplicate. So now we have this one, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Maybe put it like here, and maybe we'll add a couple little stars. So let me grab my brush tool again, and I'll make a little star. And again, I'll group this. I do want this to be filled in, but it'll be easier to do it after we convert everything to curves. So we will do that in a bit. I'm just going to duplicate this, and I'll just put a few here and there of different sizes because I want to add some variation. And you can also just like rotate them a little bit. You can flip them horizontally, that kind of thing, just so that they look a little different. I really like this design, so let's go ahead and go with this. First of all, we can save this design as an Affinity Designer file as it is, so then that way it'll be easy to edit if we ever want to go in and change some things. So I'm going to go File, Save, and I'll save that. Now let's save as, and we'll do Shapes maybe, or whatever you want to call it, and do Save. And so then this is the one that we're going to convert everything to shapes. I'm going to close my Express menu just to get it out of the way. First, let's ungroup all of our groups. So I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to go to Layer, Ungroup All. Now we don't have anything in groups anymore, and we just want to turn everything into shapes. So I'm going to select everything again and go to Layer, Expand Stroke. And this is going to turn these lines into shapes. We also will need to convert our text to curves. So we'll have to do that separately. So I'm going to select all of my text. So I grab the 4, the TH, the July. I'm going to go to Layer, Convert to Curves. And now these are curves. Notice how the 4 is overlapping July and it has the cuts kind of overlapping. Depending on how your final design is going to be, you may need to combine those into one shape, or you may want to keep them as separate shapes. So basically, if they're going to be the same color, then they should be cut out together. And so you'd want to combine them and make them one shape using that add button in the toolbar. But if, say, you want the 4th to be red and the word July to be blue, and then they'll just get ironed on top of each other, then you can just leave them as separate. So I'm going to leave them as separate. And then if we zoom in, you might find some that have like some gaps and stuff, just because Affinity Designer isn't the best at tracing around what you draw. So what we can do to fix that is you can just select the whole object, combine it to make it one shape. So we're going to go up here where it has the 2 overlapping shapes and the plus sign, and it says add when you mouse over it. So click that. Now it's all one shape, and we can actually just fill these holes in if we go up to Layer, Geometry, Fill Holes. And there, all better. I'm also going to grab my stars with my select tool. And for each star, I'm going to have to grab all of the little pieces of it. And then I'm going to combine those into one shape. And then with that, I am just going to fill in the holes. So I'll go to Layer, Geometry, fill holes, and now I have a solid star. So I'm going to do that with each of my stars. If you find it kind of impossible to like select around a star with the word July in the way, you can always lock that element. Just go up to layer and then do lock, and that just locked that one element there. So now we can select the star, and I'm going to do add, and then I'm going to go to layer, geometry, fill holes. So those look good, and let's just fix up this firework over here. We got a little weirdness over here, and sometimes that'll happen. So I'm just going to delete that little thing, and I think it was supposed to be a circle, so I'll just copy this one over. So I'm just holding down Alt while I drag it, and that looks pretty good. We do have a few little holes here, so I'm going to grab this whole firework, and again I'm going to do add, so it's all one shape. And then I'm going to go to layer, geometry, fill holes. Now I can unlock the word July that I had locked. So I'll go to layer, unlock all. And now let's go ahead and add some color. So the number 4, I can double click on the circle down here and I'll pick a red. And if I go over to swatches, then here our recent swatches will show up. So then I can pick the TH and click on that. And then for July, let's pick a blue from over here. I think that works. So I'm just going to grab everything and look over here in the layers panel. Here you can see which things are combined into one shape and which things aren't. So if we look in here, then we can see like the 4 is all by itself. And then we have our TH here as 1. When we're doing the iron-on, we would want the 4 and the TH to be together as one shape. But if you have a group, like these are actually grouped together, you will need to ungroup it before you can combine them together into one shape. So now that it's ungrouped, I can select the 4 and the TH, and I'm going to do add. And now you can see over in the layers panel that that's one shape. So what that means is that when your user goes to actually cut this out with the Cricut, it's going to cut out the 4 and the TH together. And that way the user won't need to try to position the 4 and position the TH where they go relative to each other after everything's cut out. This way they can just place it all at once. We have the word July, which it shows here is a group, but we need those to be one shape. So let's go ahead and go to layer, ungroup, and then let's click add. And now if we look in here, we see that it's all one shape. And let's do the same thing with the word of. I would maybe combine the of with July because those could definitely be placed together. And actually the dark blue star can also be placed with that as well. So I can just hold down Shift and I'll click those 3 things, and let's make those all one shape by clicking add. Let's just move the word July underneath 4th. So over here, I can just drag it under. So now we can grab all of that and group it together. Let's do one more design. For this one, we're going to do some hand lettering. I'm going to go to File, New, and then I'll do another new letter document and create. Let's do Meowica because that is so cute because I love cats. I'm going to grab my brush tool again. I'll make sure my controller is on pressure, and I just have the basic pen tool selected here. I'm just going to write out Meowica. And for this, you can just use pretty much the same principles as brush lettering with a real brush. You're just going to go lightly, and then you'll go hard on the downstroke. But another way you can also do it is you can just actually write the word, or you could do like each letter, and then you can go back over it and go hard on the downstroke. And the end of the brush does end up looking kind of jaggedy. So if you want, you can either keep that if you like it, or you can also kind of round it out at the bottom. Another thing that's very helpful is that you can put your grid on the canvas. So let's go to View, Show Grid, And then this way you can kind of at least get a straight line that you can write in. And of course you can go outside of it, any of that, but it's a good guide to have. Let me grab my brush again, and then we can go ahead and start, and I'll just keep it like within these lines here. I kind of want to add like a little tagline at the bottom. Ooh, we could do party in the USA and have a cat with a party hat on. That would be cute. Okay, let's do that. I'm gonna make this a little bit thinner, and then I'll just do regular lettering for this. I'm gonna hold down Shift so that I can make this smaller and constrain the proportions. And now obviously I need to add a cat to this. I'm gonna turn my grid lines off, grab my brush again. We have the cat and we have our text. So I think I might want to move the text underneath the cat. Let's go like that. Maybe I'll even rotate this a little bit, so it's almost like it kind of curves around him. Now let's convert everything into shapes. But first, remember, we want to save this original file. So I'll do cat, and then we're going to do file, save as, and we go cat, shapes. This is going to be our shapes file. So I'm going to grab all of it, and I'll go to layer, expand stroke. We have to fix up any weird parts. So we do have a couple little weird things like this sticking out here. And I can grab my node select tool and fix those. So I can actually just like select this node here and click delete so that it deletes it. Or I can just kind of pull them in. Now I can select my different pieces and combine what I want to combine. So I'll grab the Meowica and I'm just going to combine that into a shape. We can have this cat be one, and I'll combine that. And then I'll do party in the USA. This one is going to be a lot simpler as far as colors go. So we could either just leave it black like this, or we could make a few different colors here. So we could maybe use like a red, and then the cat can be blue, and then we'll have this also be red. So we could do something like that. That is our second one. Let's look in the layers panel, and we have our 3 different things there. We can grab everything and just group it together. And this just ensures that everything shows up in the right place when you pull it up in Cricut Design Space. So now let's save. And then when you provide this to your customer, you can have each of your different designs. So like the Meowica and the 4th of July, you can have those each in these separate files in a zip file. Now that we've finished the designs, we'll need to export them as SVG files for your customer. So inside of the Meowica one, we can go File, Export. We have SVG for export. I usually uncheck Set View Box because when I have that checked, it'll usually pull in like really tiny. So I like to uncheck the Set View Box, and then we'll do Export. Now we can open our 4th of July shapes, and we'll also do File, Export, SVG. And then I'll uncheck Set View Box and Export. Remember, the last step is always going to be to check your work. So I'm in Cricut Design Space, and I'm in a new document, and I'm just going to upload, and I'll click Upload Image and Browse. I'll pick my first one, add to Canvas. And we can see all of our pieces over in the Layers panel, and everything came through really good. Now let's delete that, and then I'll upload the second one. And here's our Meowica, and that came through good too. So we have the head, Party in the USA, and Meowica. Now you can take those 2 files, and you can make a few more too if you want, maybe like 5 or 6. Put all the SVGs in a zip file together, and that's what you will upload to Etsy or whatever platform you're using to sell your SVGs. I hope this was helpful. If you end up making any 4th of July SVGs and you want to share them, feel free to link to them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, as always, you can let me know in the comments or you can email me at heather@heathercash.com. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe so I know to make more videos like this. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.